ready for some more? Hello everyone, we are out in the duck coop, but I wanted to give you a tour of this duck enclosure that I built by hand to show you that you can do it, that you can make a duck home for yourself. If you want to own ducks, there are a number of things that you need to consider, so let's talk about that. Hope you find this helpful. So this little structure behind me is something that I built for these kind of sunny days. They can sit in it, get off the ground, get themselves warm. This little roof, while not necessarily waterproof, helps keep them relatively dry if they want to be dry, which, to be honest, most of the time they don't care. If it's raining, they're going to be outside. The only time that I have had to put them in their enclosure was when we had some like -5 to -10 degree weather. They were definitely really cold, so I put a bunch of straw in their house and let them sit in there. But it's always a great idea just to give them some stuff to sit on, to climb on, whatever, like to keep themselves entertained, especially if you don't have a lot of time during the day to let them out. I also highly recommend not letting them out unsupervised because they can get killed by hawks, raccoons, coyotes, anything that wants a duck for dinner. So two things with this door that I built. It's just framed out of 2x4s. I got all of the 2x4s for this duck house at a Habitat for Humanity store. So I got them super cheap. And I got this spring here. And that means that when I open this door, I can let it just close and it'll latch itself shut. And that's really important because I have a 5-year-old and other people who may open this gate, and I don't want them to forget to close it and then let somebody in. Now, it's not perfect. I've got this bottom bolt on here that's like a sliding bolt. And to actually bolt that, I have to lift the door up. And I really only use that like if I'm really concerned about something. You'll notice that I have a couple different layers on the outside of this enclosure. So we have this thick fence wire, and I have another layer of chicken wire on the inside. And one of the biggest considerations that you have to make when you're creating a structure for your ducks is that everything wants to kill them. Everything. Cats, dogs, coyotes, you know, possums, raccoons, weasels. There's all sorts of things that would love to eat your ducks, and all sorts of things that would literally reach their hands through here and just rip your ducks' heads off. Like, I know that's super gruesome, but it's reality. So it's really important that you have a predator-proof enclosure. This has all been nailed and stapled to the wooden frame. I have this metal running board just so that it's harder for a raccoon or something to come over here and try to reach an arm through and grab a duck. The other really important thing is I've buried wire about this far into the ground. So I dug a trench around the whole thing after I'd framed it, and then buried this heavy fence wire and chicken wire into the ground, and then I put these rocks, so you know, just stones that were kind of left over from when they had done some work on my house, which is older. A nice bonus is that the ducks love foraging under these. I'll let them out, and I'll tip over the rocks and they'll grab the worms and bugs underneath. So that just makes it harder for anything to dig underneath and try to get under. So another note on predator proofing, I've got this mesh net that's on here, and actually it's sitting a little bit low. We had a really big snowstorm and it knocked this down, so I had to rehang it. So it doesn't look as nice as when I first did it, but I'll redo it at some point. But this is for hawks and other large birds of prey that might try to swoop down and grab your ducks. It also is good for raccoons or anything. It's just a deterrent because they could very easily climb a fence like this fence. So I'm pretty proud of this part of the enclosure. This is their actual house. This is where they sleep at night. And I built this door so that I can access it to get eggs and to clean it out. It swings open like this. Pretty self-explanatory. It kind of stops by itself there, but the only bad thing about this door, so here's an inside view of the coop. As you can see, I have a mixture of bedding here. We've got straw, which is really good for the winter when you need to insulate them. I also have pine shavings. Oh, hello ladies, are you coming to visit? I actually need to put some fresh bedding in here today. But they're very safe in here. We've got a good waterproof roof on the top. I'll show you that a little bit. And yeah, it's wooden framed. One of the most important things with a duck house is that it needs to have the proper ventilation. If there's not enough ventilation, then there's really a higher chance of them getting respiratory diseases and issues from having too much moisture trapped inside the house. In the winter, most places really, as long as they have a good layer of bedding, you don't actually have to worry that much about them being cold. Ducks are very cold hardy. They do really good in cold weather. Once it starts getting down to the low teens, like 10, 5, that's when you'll start to see some issues. Rainbow. They're loud. Okay, let's talk about the roof. So these shingles are some free shingles that I got that were left over from whenever they did my shed. I had a couple other shingles that I got off Facebook Marketplace for free. You know, somebody had redone their house, had some extra shingles laying around, and they actually had some extra roofing paper as well that they didn't need that I got for free. So a lot of the materials that I used for this were free from Facebook and other people that I knew. You can use other materials like corrugated metal or a tarp, but in my opinion, the corrugated metal is so expensive for you know, what you're going to get. It's just way cheaper to do tile or roof tiles, and it's not that hard. Like, you can figure it out. Another little bit about predator proofing. If you'll notice, I've got multiple layers of defense here. I've got this thick fencing. I also have hardwire cloth that's under here, and it's both nailed and stapled. These are the ventilation areas that I was talking about. You have to be really careful to not let anything get through your ventilation. So anything that's bigger than that really needs to be plugged up. Okay, let's talk lumber choices. So the big part of this frame is built with old deck. So it's somebody's, a former landlord of mine, he had an old deck that he had torn down, and he gave me these boards. I cut them down to size, but they've still got nails and screws and stuff in them. But the nice thing is they are pressure treated. So two things I want to talk about as well is the door design that I made. It's a lower down latch instead of an up latch. The reason that I did that is I don't have to have a ramp for the ducks because the door is the ramp. So obviously our hay situation is a little crazy right now, but this goes up like this, locks in place, and then I have another bolt here that I put for the evening. This is Sunshine. Sunshine is really spunky, and she likes to yell at me. But yeah, in the morning, when I let them out, I do this, da-da-da, and the ducks come out. Another quick thing to mention is the siding on this. This is cedar fencing that I got from a guy. He had done some fence work and it had taken out a section of fence. And so it's another, you know, bit of lumber that I got for free off Facebook. So there's a ton of opportunity to get free material online from different people. You just, you know, got to look for it. So another important tidbit is their water situation. So you can go with like a kiddie pool or something like that. I don't have that much space in this enclosure, so I don't want 90% of it to be taken up by a kiddie pool. I also want them to have another access of water. So I've got a bucket that I drilled holes in, and when they were little, we trained them to put their heads in a little tub that had holes in it to drink water. So they put their head in it like that. So they have a bigger version of that system now, and it works really well. What I got to use as their water tubs that they swim around in is their cement mixing tubs from Harbor Freight. They're like 10 bucks a piece, super cheap, and they work really great. They're just deep enough to where when they're full, they're floating, and they can actually swim and submerge themselves. I found that 2 tubs seems to be about the right number for my ducks. I have 5. We are planning on getting 2 more, and so I'll probably add 1 more tub. The other nice thing about like having them smaller, like a module system, is that if I want to take the duck water and use it to water my garden, I don't have to try and drain a giant kiddie pool. I can just take the individual buckets, which are about 10 gallons a piece, and that's much more manageable for my back and for getting through the enclosure door than it would be to do, you know, a big pool. I will say it took me about a month and a half to build it. Sorry. It took, Kronk is my text message alert.
Fat poison?
Yes, fat poison.
Got you covered.
So it took me about a month and a half to build it in my free time. And so, you know, just know that like when you get your ducks, you're going to have them inside or in a barn or something, and you're going to need to start building your enclosure in your house right away, because you don't want to be in a situation where you've got full-grown ducks that need to go outside, but they don't have a safe enclosure to be in. So anyways, I hope that if you're thinking about ducks, that this can give you some inspiration for what you can do. Obviously, if you have fewer ducks than I have, you can do something smaller. If you've got more ducks, you can do something bigger. The main things are, hey, like predators are a real problem. You have to plan for them. Otherwise, there's going to be some heartbreak involved in owning any poultry, any animal that's a desirable food item. And also just be confident. You can figure stuff out. I'm not an expert builder. I'm not a woodworker. You know, you just do what you can. Try and source as much free material as you can. You know, get it from Habitat for Humanity, get it from wherever, like used on Facebook, free on Facebook. There's so many options out there for you to do it yourself. Don't go out and spend $600 on a duck enclosure that you could build for $100 or $200 yourself. And I hope you enjoy your ducks, because I enjoy mine. Some issues. Oh, we're going to stretch out that wing.